Are you looking to up your real estate investing game? Well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Sub 2 Deals Show with your host, Sub 2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub-Tours. My name is William Tingle of Sub2Deals.com. I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the Sub 2 Deals Show, where we talk about all things subject to. Now, occasionally we will cover some other real estate topics, but it will always be something to help you with your real estate investing business. Today is another episode in our Real Investor series where we feature real investors sharing real stories and real deals. These guys are investors doing deals all across the country, and they don't have any boot camps or courses to sell you. Just offer real tips and strategies and the things that are working today in their businesses and in their markets. They're going to share all of these with you. And remember, these things can work for you too. So just pay attention and take notes. My guest today is Luiz Sousa. Luiz is a real estate investor in the Gainesville, Georgia area. He's been investing for 14 years. All of that as a full-time investor. That's right. He quit his job in New York, took off to Georgia, started wide open right out of the gate. Now, Luiz has a very interesting background. I've known him for a long time. We're going to have a great conversation today. I've really been looking forward to this. Luiz, welcome to the Sub 2 Deals Show.
Thank you very much, William. It's a pleasure to be here with you and all the listeners.
Luiz, like I said, I've known you for a long time. I've known you from back before 2006 when you got started. You did something that, a typical person getting started does. You go out, you try to get a little bit of education in what you do. But I'm going to let you tell all the listeners a little bit about your background, what you did before real estate, where you're from, and something about your family.
Fantastic. Yes, many people don't know, William, but I was born in Brazil, and right. I arrived over here in the late 80s with $400 in my pocket. I had a place to crash in a basement in New York with two more guys.
Right.
And I had also a job right on Fifth Avenue, a job that, if there was something dirty or stinky, that was my job to clean up and make sure it was good and smelling okay.
Right.
So I'm married. I have my beautiful wife, Pam. I have 3 kids. Christian helps me a lot. He's 20 years old. Sarah, she's UNG, and Sam, the youngest, he's 17. As a matter of fact, he has his private pilot written test today.
Oh,
so we'll
great.
see what happens. Maybe one of these days we'll fly over there to pay you a visit.
Oh, sounds great, man.
So so I had the job for a little while, for a few years. In the meantime, I started brushing up in my English, which is not too good today, but makes it happen,
Oh, yeah.
Also, I put myself into cooking school. Fast forward, and to make a long story short, I got a job at one of the biggest hotels in New York City as a chef from 1993 until 2006. So, but I wasn't happy then. I was very unhappy with everything, with the job and the schedule, when 9/11 happened, and with a family, and like, oh man, it was like a perfect storm. And I said, I gotta get the hell out of here. I need to get my own thing somehow, And so I think that's pretty much my background so far.
Right. I know. I remember you actually came down to Georgia for a workshop, 3-day deal that I had, I believe in 2004 or 2005. And that's when I met you, and you participated in the Sub 2 Deals Forum that we had before then, but you came down for that. And my family visited New York, and I had posted something about it, and you invited us up to the hotel that you were at, and we had dinner, and I think you gave us a little tour, and that was pretty awesome.
Yes, I remember that day very vividly. William. It was a great evening.
Hmm.
It was a great pleasure to have you up there. And I remember, if my mind is not playing tricks on me, you had some kind of workshop or seminar up in Long Island, right?
I did. I
That you
did.
had that up there.
I did. I was speaking for the Long Island RIA. That's why we were in New York. And of course, we traveled a lot and tried to turn each business uh, trip into sort of a vacation. So, we did the New York thing. We went to the Statue of Liberty and all that stuff. That was right after 9/11, so a lot of stuff was sort of closed.
Right.
So we were a little bit limited in what we did, but we had a great time and saw a lot of New York. It was, when you live in Macon, Georgia, New York is pretty exciting.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I remember you asking me at that meeting, if you moved to Georgia, would you be able to make enough money, to live a good life and provide for your family. And I said, well, Lewis, if you're willing to work, you absolutely will. And man, you've absolutely killed it since then. I mean, you've been very successful. I know that you came down, like you said, and just right off the bat, you've been able to provide a good living for your family. And I think you're probably pretty happy with things down there, aren't you?
I can't complain, William. I tell you that I'll never go back to my past. I tell you, I love cooking,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll never go back. God willing, not going back to that environment, to that field. Make no mistake about it. I love cooking, and the chef's jacket come out of the closet at least once a year.
Oh
for
yeah.
for Christmas or some kind of special event.
Right.
But other than that, no, thank you. I'm very happy where I am. And yes, I had to put myself in a situation where I had to jump in the water and at the same time learn how to swim,
Right.
because I had to get out of New York for the sake of my family, for my sanity, and so that's what I did, and
Right.
it's very hard, and I don't know, maybe some people listening to this podcast would relate to this situation, but it's like I'll tell you, I used to get up in the morning, William, at 3:30, 3:15 in the morning, and in Long Island, I used to take the Long Island Railroad to Penn Station. From there to take take a cab every single morning,
Mm-hmm.
and we used to have
Right.
one minivan, and from the house to the train station was about half a mile, and the minivan had to stay with my wife Pam because of the kids.
Right.
So every single morning I had to walk half a mile plus, regardless the weather. And
Mm-hmm.
and if in the winter, the New York weather is not very forgiving.
Oh yeah,
So I
absolutely.
had no choice
Mm-hmm.
back then.
And that's something you and I shared in common, Lewis. And I think, that's one reason that we connected like we did was because, I was in the restaurant industry for 20 years before I made my break too. So those 15 plus hour days and stuff, it's tough. It is tough. You don't get to
It
spend a
is.
whole lot of time with your family. And then like I said, coupled with living in New York and the transportation. That's one of the things I really remember about New York was, whenever you took public transit, which we did there, we didn't even bother renting a car because it's so congested and crowded. So we took, the Long Island ferry over to different spots. And then we, of course, took the subway a lot. I was just always struck by how most everyone on those means of transportation looked like they had just been beat up in the evenings.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
that's New
tough.
York.
Well, let me ask you. I mean, with such an interesting background and everything, and you already sort of had a career as a chef, what got you interested in real estate?
Well, I have a little secret, William, that when I first came here, um, at one point I lived in Brooklyn, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was working the place that I already mentioned. And late at night, I was watching TV, and this guy Carlton Sheets came on TV, and I started watching, and make a long story short, I purchased his course
Mm-hmm.
because I knew that real estate could be uh, the way to freedom, financial freedom, and time. Timing meaning I can control my time. I can do whatever the hell I want to do with my time, without anybody telling me what to do, where to be, when to come, when to leave, when to take a break, and etc. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the course, and I and what happened was back then I was having a lot of problems with the English language, and I didn't have time, and my mind wasn't there, you know. And so what happened was um, I forgot about it, you know. But that was the seed of real estate, you know. Fast forward many years later, um, I came across you guys, subject to deals, and I know that will be able to give me real estate will be able to give me the freedom to spend with my family. You know, they'll give me the freedom to do whatever I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Even watch soccer.
Oh yeah.
Being from Brazil, I am I have that in my blood,
Oh yeah.
and typically uh, the good games happen in Wednesday at 1 p.m. or Thursdays at 3 o'clock, and and if I feel like it, I go ahead and I put my butt on my chair with my cold non-alcoholic drink, and
Mm-hmm.
I watch without you know uh, saying or hear anything from anybody. Of course, my
Right.
wife sometimes, but that's primarily why I got into real estate, for freedom, for financial freedom, for spend more time with my kids.
Right.
I'll tell you what, William, since we got here, I haven't missed one event of my three kids.
Right.
Whether it's a sport, a football, or band event, or a school meeting, or what, I haven't missed that, and that's just priceless, William.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
Oh yeah.
so
Absolutely. We have so many things in common. I'll tell you right from the Carlton Sheets course. You've heard my story. That's how I got started. Late
right.
night TV, Carlton Sheets. Listening to you talk about how it was all about freedom, the ability to do what you want, spend time with your family. You got started with three young kids. You know, all of them under the age of 7 or 8. I had two, and it was the same thing. You got to go to all their events, things you would have never been able to do in the restaurant industry ever.
Correct.
And you're right, because they're going to grow up so fast anyway, and being able to do all those things is just so important. So, man, it gives me chills to listen to that, and just know that you know that I've maybe got to play some tiny part in somebody else being able to have that freedom. That's really what it's all about.
No, no, no. And it was a big part, man. I'm here to tell you that it was a huge, huge influence on my jumpstart career. William, and I'm not gonna diminish that.
Well,
To be
I'm
honest
honored.
with you.
I'm honored to hear you say that. I truly am. I just know that that is really what it's all about. It's just the ability to be able to do what you want when you want, and not have somebody else telling you when and where every day.
Right.
That
And and,
is
mhm. and
that's
I
just
think that's
priceless.
price. I think that's priceless. I mean, over here, if you're not going to spend time with your family,
Hmm.
and giving your time and play ball with your son, or your daughter, or go have lunch with your wife at any time of dinner, any day of the week. That's just priceless, on my book.
Absolutely, it is. It's one of the best parts of this business. Well, Lewis, tell us about your business model. I know this is a Sub Two Deals show, and we talk about that to some degree, but a lot of investors have different things they do. I know you're pretty diversified in what you do. You do a lot of different things, but tell us about, your business. What kind of deals do you do and that sort of thing? How do you buy? How do you sell? And what do you like to do?
To be honest with you, William, I do all of the above. You know, I try to design a system where whoever calls me here, I'm trying to help. I'm going to try to help.
Mhm.
Whether it's a subject to, whether it's a rehab, a flip. So I'm wide open. So in other words, I have all my tools locked and loaded for whoever is calling me here.
Mhm.
I'm not into commercial. Maybe I will. I'm starting to look at some large lots of lands,
Mhm.
but that's something that I'm still learning. But my bread and butter is subject tools, rehabs. I've done a lot of rehabs this past few years, a lot of
Mhm.
flips, and so and that's what I've been doing lately.
Right. So you're an investor who you do your marketing, and as leads come in, you're able to just sort them out and go, okay, because of the financing or the situation or the price we're able to buy at, that's a rehab project there. Or if it's an area maybe that I don't like, maybe somebody, it's a rental type thing, I might flip that to a landlord. Or if it's something I can take over payments on sub two, I may buy and hold and use it for a rental or seller finance it. You just kind of do. You put it in the box it goes in, and you make the most of the lead.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Great. Well, it sounds pretty efficient. I get that. I know when I was in Macon, that's exactly what I did too. I said, if I want to spend the marketing dollars, I'm going to try to do the most I can. The only thing that I really wouldn't touch, and I usually gave these leads away, were mobile homes. I was just not into mobile homes.
I'll tell you, William. I've been. Funny thing is, I wasn't too crazy about mobile homes either. You
Mhm.
know, but if you do it right, you can be you can make some good money out of that.
You know,
Especially doing
yeah,
self financing.
hmm,
Of course,
yeah,
mobile homes with land. You know,
right,
so
yeah,
you gotta have the land.
yeah.
You know.
And I know a lot of investors who do very well with them. I just always had this preconceived notion that mobile homes would be a different type of buyer, and uh, and they would be a little bit harder to deal with. So I never did. But I'm not surprised at all that you're able to take them and do something with them too. You're a pretty creative guy. Um, what would you say is your best source for leads? Now, when I ask that question, what I generally ask an investor is, if your life depended on getting quality leads within the next 24 hours, what would you do starting right this minute to get those leads coming in?
Well, that's a good question. If my life depended on it, I guess um, the best thing would be um, knock on doors. I
Mhm.
will hop on my truck and I'll be, you know, uh, knocking on doors, because there is no better way for you to get deals than face to face with a seller.
Now, how do you
Especially
know,
when, uh-huh.
Lewis? How do you know? Let's say that you said, okay, I've got 24 hours to generate leads, so I'm going to get in my truck and go knock on doors. Whose door? I mean, how do you decide uh, whose door to knock on in that case?
Well, I'll try to find those in some situations such as pre-foreclosure, um, those that have been bugged by code enforcement,
Mhm.
those that are in divorce, um, and so on. You know,
Right.
so
I know you had mentioned something when we had spoken earlier about another thing that you would do on short term would be to make a lot of cold calls. Is that something that you do from
in
time to time?
I do. I'm not too crazy about about cold calling myself.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's another thing. That will be the next step, the second below the door knocking.
Mm-hmm.
Door knocking and cold calling. Those two are, if you wanna generate leads. I guess I'm getting too lazy. But those are the best way for you to accomplish some, I would say, quality leads.
Right. Now, as far as your general marketing, just your day-to-day stuff, how you run your business, what are you guys doing primarily to generate your leads for that?
We do a lot of mailing
Mm-hmm.
and Facebook ads.
Right.
My son pretty much handles that part because I don't have much patience on that.
Well,
and
so yeah.
and now my nephew just moved from Brazil. He's up in New York, with his fiance,
Mm-hmm.
and he's giving me a little hand. Actually, it's a hand goes both ways, So he's helping me out a little with some marketing material.
Right. So now for your mailing, who do you primarily target for that?
Well, I have a secret, William, that I'm going to
Uh,
share with you.
you're gonna
Uh,
share a secret with us? That's
it
great.
might not be a secret for some. I share this with very few people, but because of you, there's something called open record requests. I don't know. Are you
Mm-hmm.
familiar with that? Which
Open record request?
Yes.
Yes, I am. But you
Okay.
tell us how that works for you down there in Georgia.
So what happens is every state has a different form, and so all I do is get this one-page form, and I send to my courthouse. Uh, let's say this particular case I mentioned, code enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, code enforcement is out and about every single day bugging people.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
they're writing out people in trouble. I would say, because if your grass is up to your knee and there's trash in the house, there's a sign that it's some kind of motivation or perhaps some kind of financial situation. So what happens is the code enforcer has to make a data of all the information, all the addresses that he or she writes up, and by having this open record request, I'll send that to the courthouse requesting the list. And by law, they have to get back to me in 3 days, within 3 business days, whether with the list or with some kind of excuse, So that's what I do a lot. I use the open records request for that. I use also for water shut off, people that has that there's not paying the water bill. It works also for divorce. So
Mm-hmm.
this is $1 million tip.
Right.
It works, I would say, throughout the United States in every state, and it's just a very simple form. And the beauty of it is that a lot of this lists that I get are free of charge.
Right.
So those are fresh lists that I would say that nobody has.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, also I tackle vacant houses from the post office, and pretty soon I'm going to start tackling again NODs, notice of default, or
Right.
people that start missing the mortgage payment because it's coming, I think.
Right. So are you purchasing your list of NODs in Georgia? Because Georgia's foreclosure process is a little bit unique and quick. And so I mean, are you purchasing a list there of defaults or?
I've done it before, William, and I haven't done it in a while. But because of the landscape and the things that are happening today, I
Right.
think the common sense tells me that they're coming. and I'm just getting my getting my ingredients together.
I hear you.
If you
Oh,
know what
yeah.
I mean, getting my ingredients together because I'm starting to think ahead because with the situation, the virus, and people losing their jobs, and I
Right.
know the government's going to help some, but but a lot of people are going to lose their jobs,
Right.
and some companies are going to close their doors, and eventually people are going to start missing their uh, um, mortgage payment.
Right.
And I want to be, I guess, in the game. I was not that prepared 12 years ago when the market went down and all that, all that mess happened. Because I was taking my baby steps here in Georgia,
Right.
but hopefully now I'll be more prepared.
Right. I gotcha. Okay. Well, Lewis, tell me, all investors I talk to are different. Some are very techy. They use a lot of tools in their business, a lot of different CRMs and just all kind of stuff. I've always been kind of a legal pad guy, maybe occasionally an Excel spreadsheet, but it just doesn't get any more complicated than that for me. Do you have any favorite tools or apps that you use in your business that you could share with us?
Well, I think that Facebook is a very, very powerful tool,
Mm-hmm.
William. So I don't have any special apps. I'm old school guy.
Right.
I'm not a millennium, and so I'm not connected with some like today. I know my son helped me out, as I mentioned to you, but I don't have anything special in particular to mention.
Right. So you're just kind of, you do your marketing a lot like I did when I was down in Georgia. You get your list, you send your mailings out, you use Facebook Marketplace a little bit, but other than that, you're just not using a lot of tech tools and that sort of thing to help.
Not really, to be honest with you, William. I guess I'm known here in the area. I get some leads from other people, from a good amount of agents that I know. I guess even some from the church I go to, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I should, to be honest with you.
Well, if it's working for you, it's working for you. I was actually pretty pleased to see you say that in the questions that you sent me back, because that's the way I've operated for years and years for the most part. And some investors nowadays will look at me like I have two heads when I don't have a list of 15 apps that I use to run my business. And I said, well, it's just not necessary to make it that complex.
Right.
You can put out some marketing, do a few mailings, hit Facebook, make a few cold calls, put out a few bandit signs from time to time. And you can buy a couple of houses a month. You don't have to make it real complicated.
Right. One thing, William, I have to say, I had some bandit signs. I used to use a lot of bandit signs.
Right.
And I had a very bad experience with bandit signs, because I hired someone to bombard the area with bandit signs, and I guess maybe a week or two later, I had a nice officer of the law knocking on my door.
Oh yeah.
With an invitation to see a judge. So that was the end of my bandit signs.
Yeah.
So and today I don't advise anyone to use bandit signs. That's my experience.
Right.
If you ask me. And so some people say, oh, you can put this day or that day, or look, I had my experience, and I'm not going to try to outsmart the law, because if they want to get you, they'll get you, regardless if you have a Google phone or whatever, So that's my experience.
Yeah, my experience with them was a little bit different. Of course, I think most of the markets you're operating in up there, you tend to work in some of the upper end markets around Atlanta and so on. And, Macon's just a little bit different, but bandit signs I think are okay if you make yourself very familiar with the areas that are not going to be on you. Some of them, are like your experience. If you use them, they're going to call you, they're going to harass you, they're going to come see you. You got to be pretty selective in the areas that are going to allow, they call them street spam. So,
Yeah. But they work, the,
yeah.
the bad thing is that they work, so,
Mm-hmm.
but I had to let go, I said, oh boy, I don't need that. The worst
Yeah.
feeling is when you're facing a judge and it's like, I know at the end of the day, I got a slap on my wrist. It was $600, but the guy said, you're 6 months, you're in 6 months probation, and please don't come back over here. And I said, yes, sir, no problem.
and that's what you have to do. I mean,
So,
you just have to find out what works in your area for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah. Lewis and I are going to take a quick break. He shared a ton of information with us on what's working in his market. But we're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a minute. And when we come back, Lewis is going to talk to us about the criteria that he uses when he evaluates a sub-2 deal, or any deal pretty much, and deciding if he wants to play or pass. So you guys stay with us. We'll be back in a few seconds.
The Sub-2 Deals Show with your host, Sub-2 expert William Tingle. We'll be right back. Hey Sub-2ers, do you want to learn how to get the deed but need a little help getting started? Want to learn how to fill out the paperwork, how to use a land trust, how to market for deals, how to negotiate with sellers, and more? Join us in the Sub-2 Deals Facebook coaching group. Get the benefits of one-on-one coaching without the big price tag. Learn to do Sub-2 right with coaching in a group setting and mastermind format. Head over to sub2deals.com right now and click on consulting and group coaching. We'll save you a seat. Back to the show, the Sub-2 Deals Show with your host, Sub-2 expert William Tingle.
Hey, Sub-2ers. We're here today on the Sub-2 Deals Show, Real Investor Series. We're talking to Luiz Sousa. I've known Luiz for years, since before he quit his job in New York as a chef at a high-end hotel and moved down to Georgia to start investing in real estate. We're talking today about his business and what he does to consistently find deals, and he's sharing a lot of information with us. When we left off, he was just about to tell us how he evaluates a deal. He does his marketing. He uses several methods to do that we've already talked about, and the phone starts ringing. He gets leads, and he's going to tell us exactly how he evaluates that lead to decide if that's a deal that he wants to do. So, Luiz, tell us, what do you look for when you get a lead on a deal and you're collecting the information you need? Things like minimum cash flow or equity spread or condition of the property. How do you take that lead and decide, well, it's going to be a rehab, it's going to be a keeper? Tell us about what you think about and how you make that decision.
Sure, William. I guess for me, the main thing is the equity.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have equity in the majority of the deals, because I always have I like to have the option to do whatever I want to do, and if I want to do a subject to, I'll do a subject to. If I want to flip the house, I'll flip it. So I always like to have the option and those options, and equity always, it's on my side.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say that, rehab, the amount of work needed is a big factor, of course, and if you're doing a subject to, it's good for you to have, that, low payment or low interest rate. Mm-hmm. So you can have I guess a handsome cash flow for X amount of months or years,
Right. I agree. Equity's great. I know back when, after the crash and things happened, we started taking a look at some different ways to buy and actually started buying properties. While we like to have equity, we started buying properties that were almost fully mortgaged. We relied on the interest rate on the underlying and the interest rate that we were able to charge. Of course, we do pretty much exclusively owner finance stuff. But You're right, keeping your options open whenever you can get an equity situation is always going to be best. It's going to make your exit strategies a lot more wide open, and it's going to be a lot safer position for you to be in. So if you can filter through and find those properties with equity, you're going to be in a much safer position. So good for you that you're sticking to that, and that's your buying criteria. Tell us about a deal maybe that you're working on right now. Can you give us an example of something you got going on today?
Sure. Actually, there's a deal that we're supposed to close tomorrow. Deal is already funded. You know, we wired the funds yesterday to the closing attorney. I got a phone call about a week ago or so, 10 days from this lady. And I did not, up to now, I have no idea where she got my information. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So one of those things. I know she mentioned my attorney, so that leads me to believe that it was probably a communication with somebody online, you know. So anyway, got a call from her, went, set up an appointment, and I'm always locked and loaded, you know. Numbers look great, you know. I could share the numbers with you. I mean, I'm a humble guy, William, you know, but if you wish, I could share the numbers with you.
Please do. Tell us, you know, what you're going to be all in for, and what your cost will be, and what your anticipated profit is. We'd love to hear that if you don't mind sharing.
Absolutely. So I know she mentioned about 65,000 when over the phone during our conversation. I said, "Oh boy, it's already a great deal at that 65."
Right. That's what the seller wants for the property.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what she wanted. So got there. It's a 3-2, great area, Claremont. I don't know if you know the area, if you ever heard about it, or it's a North Hall County.
I'm not familiar with it.
So vinyl siding. The place is a mess. It was a mess, you know. But primarily just cosmetics. You know, the big tickets will be AC. Roof is about maybe 5 years old. So big tickets, again, AC, maybe flooring, maybe some, you know, kitchen, you know. So I met her and we cut a deal. You know, she dropped $5,000. You know, right then and there, we signed the paperwork and we set to close tomorrow, as I already mentioned. 60,000 is the purchase price. I had my people there. Fernando's going to charge me about $1,200 to clean the whole thing in and out, you know, bushes and grass and all that stuff. My contractor is going to charge me less than $1,500 to fix some kind of siding there that they burned, and you know, do a little patching up here and there. What else? So we're going to power wash the house. I'm not going to connect the power or the utilities. I'm going to sell it as is, William. And I had my agent / broker there, and he told me that, you know, as is situation, the price will be around 129 and 139. So I have 60,000 plus closing costs that I'm handling the closing cost, plus I don't know, maybe $3,000 upfront in cleanup and dumpster fee, and I'll have that baby on the market, you know, the very next week or less or before, for about 129 and 139. So I guess we can all do the math, you know. So I think
well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that's a great deal, and when she called me, I'm like, oh boy. You know, it's the motivation, you know, it's something that you don't understand until you have the first experience. And I said, okay, where are you now? Let's meet now. And I have my 2-page document, you know, purchase agreement. And so we're supposed to close tomorrow. I can keep you posted on what happens tomorrow, and
do us a case study, if you would, Lewis, for the Sub 2 Deals Forum. You know, break it down for us and tell us how it shakes out when you close. But I mean, I'm looking at the numbers here. If you're buying for 60, you're going to spend 3,000 fixing up, you probably won't have but a couple of thousand in closing costs. And so you'll be in for say 65, 67. You're going to, let's just say you split you sell at the lower end of your comp, what you're saying your comps are at 130. You'll have some other costs, agents, commissions, so on and so forth. And you're still looking at a 50,000 plus payday.
Yes, sir.
On this property. Tell me about this lady. Now, what in the world motivated her? You said the house was a mess. I mean,
Yes.
and you and I know as rehabbers, like I don't rehab now, but from the past, that even cosmetics that are a mess are really low cost. But to the average person, it looks like, oh my God, this house is a wreck.
Yes.
But what would motivate her to sell at half price like that out of the gate? What was her situation?
Well, this is the beauty of it. She told me that she had a real estate agent there, and she said that, she gave her a number, which was 70,000. And I have no idea who this agent is, And so the numbers are completely off based on my experience and the people I work with.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened is, according to her story, because of course there's always a story behind every deal.
Oh yeah.
She had some family members there as tenants.
Oh my God.
And they destroyed the place, in her eyes. Because in my eyes, yes, the place needs to complete, everything for you to put it out in the market. A good $50,000 or $60,000 perhaps. But for her, the place was a disaster. It was like almost the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And people get emotional. She was a little emotional there because she had lived in that house back in years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then she had some family members that screwed her royally, and now she just can't wait to get rid of the house.
Right.
Because of memories or because of whatever.
Yeah. So it's emotional, and that's
yes.
that's the way it is with a lot of sellers. They don't look at it as a business transaction like we do. It's an emotional thing for them.
Yes, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, that sounds like a great deal. I'll really be looking for your story on that one. And I know a lot of times I'll see you post where you've sold a house or whatever and made someone else a homeowner and that sort of thing. So great post over there on that, by the way. I've been needing to tell you. So yeah, we'll be interested to see. And you'll have very little work in this for a $50,000 payday. So I mean, that's congratulations. That sounds wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, Lewis, tell us about your most unusual deal. Now, we all have these, things where, strange things happened. And I've heard about deals that had murder for hire plots involved and all kind of stuff. But tell us about your most unusual deal with the most difficult circumstances.
Well, William, I have to be honest with you, brother. I guess I have to say my first subject to deal here in Georgia, which was my very first investment property.
Mm-hmm.
So as I mentioned, I was new here. I didn't know a lot of people. And, we came down, we had a black minivan that we drove from New York down here.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just happened that I got a phone call from a motivated seller on one of my bandit signs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay. So, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't have access to the MLS. But, I guess Zillow and I guess Trulia and some others were there together with the, I guess the county information, which is pretty accurate, just don't give you the value of the house accurate.
Right.
But I knew that there was a good deal. And so I said, let me go there. Let me go check it out. My very first one. So I got to the place, beautiful 3-2 and 3-2 house, vinyl siding, moving condition, I would say, and with a swimming pool on close to 1.5 acres. And so everything was unusual for me back then, William, because it was my first deal, my first motivated seller that I mentioned to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, my first question was, why you want to sell the house? What's the reason? And, sadly, he told me that there was a tragic event that happened with his wife in the house
Mm-hmm.
a few years back. And fast forward a few years, at the time, he had a lady friend that had some kind of sickness,
Mm-hmm.
and his job wasn't doing well. And he said, I just want to get the hell out of here,
Mm-hmm.
And I said, okay. So my next question was, look, if I'm able to make cover your payments, your back payments, start making the payments until I find a buyer, do you think that will work for you? And he said, absolutely. And I remember, William, the guy had his key, his house key, right on his hand. The guy couldn't wait to give me his key.
Right.
And I'm shaking inside, and I'm kind of like sweating cold. And I'm like, today I understand what a motivated seller is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said, now what we have to do, we have to go get a notary. So we left the location, the house, and we signed all the paperwork that you provided me, pretty much. I didn't know an attorney that closed subject twos here in the area. I had to find one. I found a mobile attorney. I had to get this guy, which was a notary, and we all met at a Chinese place for the closing, So I have to say, if you put all the puzzle together, I really have to say that this was my very first unusual deal that I've had. Now there has been some crazy stuff, but that's the most memorable to me.
Right.
The very first one, like I said before, the very first girlfriend, but I didn't have all the tools that I have today. Let's say, so that was the most unusual to me. I can share the numbers with you if we have time.
That absolutely. I mean, this is an interesting story here. You just moved to Georgia. You put out some bandit signs. You got a call. You go out. You check it out. It's a truly motivated seller. They're ready to hand you the keys. It's a sub-2. They're willing to let you take over the payments. Tell us about your first deal that happened to be a sub-2, and tell us how that worked out for you. What were the numbers on that thing?
It worked out great, William, because I listened to you and I learned, and I had some lines of credit, one of those checks that come, from, I don't remember, maybe MasterCard or Visa, sitting around.
That's right.
And with zero interest rate, I know that he owed about, at the time, maybe $120,000, and he was about maybe $3,000 in arrears, back payments. So, but the value of the house, the actual value, because it wasn't, didn't need anything, maybe very little. I didn't do anything to the house with him other than maintain the pool and going there with my kids, so having fun. So, and it was, the value of the house was about $190,000, So I went and I took care of those back payments with the checks that you advised me to do, free money, if you may say.
Right.
Start making the payments. I make the payment. I made, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 payments. And at the time, remember, I didn't have any jobs. I didn't have any income. So I had to go ahead and look for something very fast. And so I put it on the market, and I got someone on the hook. And I remember back then was the purchase price was about 186 or 180 something, minus closing costs, minus this, minus my front end expense, and I walked out of the closing table when we sold it with a check for $38,000, So that was something that, I'll never forget. and I had to use, actually I used every single, actually across every T and dot every I's from that subject to course that you provided me, you know. And of course, uh, the workshop helped me a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
the basics were pretty much from your course, man. And you know,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that, you know, because that was the jump start of everything in my career, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm very thankful, and you know, and I make no bones about it, brother, you know.
Well, now, Lewis, you work very hard. I mean, I appreciate you giving, the course a little bit of credit, but, you have to actually, and this is the thing a lot of people don't understand. There's nothing microwave, if you will, about that course. You have to get it, take the wrap off of it, open it up, read it, and then go out and apply the stuff if you're going to walk away with a check for $38,000. You can't just put it on your shelf and it's not going to do the work for you.
I agree completely with you, William. You know, I know many people buy courses and books and they attend seminars, but they, you know, that's your tool. That's your GPS. You
Right.
know, that information, that's education. That's going to take you somewhere if you wish. You know, the course is not going to grab your hand and say, listen, start making calls, start doing this, that, and the other. But, you know, but that's it's a pot of gold
Mhm.
that, you know, it was provided to me. And I have to say that I took advantage of it, you know,
Oh,
primarily
absolutely.
because I had no other way. I put myself
Mhm.
in a position that, you know, it's either you know, my choice is you either make it happen or you make it happen, you know,
Mhm.
because we have 5 months to feed over here back, you know, still including mine. And, you
Mhm.
know, we had the house over here, still have, you know, it's in the same place, and lots of bills and three young kids. I mean, so I had no choice but go ahead and move, excuse me my language, but move my ass. And that's
Oh
the
yeah.
only way you're going to succeed in this business, you know, because you can go ahead and you can, you know, browse the internet all day long. But if you don't get busy, nothing's going to happen. That's the truth. That's the true story.
Absolutely. It does take some effort. I mean, like I said, it's not, and like you said, it's not going to jump off the shelf and grab your hand and say, let's go make some calls and let's meet some people. You're going to have to do that on your own. So, man, congrats to you. I tell you, and that proves a couple of things that a lot of people will say, oh, that doesn't happen. Number one is nobody will give you a house and walk away. We know that's not true. And the second thing is no one will give you a house that has equity. Now we know that's not true, don't we, Lewis?
Yeah, that's yeah, that doesn't exist.
Happens every day, doesn't it?
Every day, everywhere. You know, that
That's right.
story that, oh, you know, look, I'm in Gainesville, Georgia. I'm in Gainesville. Many people don't even know what that is, you know. But you know, we're making things happen over here. And I'm not gonna tap myself on the back and say that I'm a big guy. You know, I make a few things here and there happen, you know. But you know, nobody's gonna do it for me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe my son will take over one day. I don't know. But number one, I enjoy I enjoy doing this with him. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
guess
right.
that's in my favor. You know, because a lot of people think that real estate is easy. You know, oh, that's, you know, make $50,000. No, that's not easy. You know, because I have family members that come to me and say, look, how are you doing this? And I say, it's, you know, and I sit down and I talk and I do, you know, and I provide information. I said, do this, that, and the other, and that's all I can do. I cannot twist their arms to for them to do what they need to do, you know. So
Yeah, that's a great story, man. And don't be so modest. I know you're kicking butt in Gainesville, so you work hard and you deserve the rewards and you're getting them. So don't be modest. You're making stuff happen. Um, so tell me, how did you learn to do what you do? I know we've talked a little bit about you've gone to some webinars and you've done some or some workshops and, educated yourself. If you had to, just talk about the key things that got you able to do what you do today, what would you say?
Well, William, I have to be persistent, and you're not going anywhere without education. Education is the key for this business, and some other business too, like I would say, or maybe not, I don't know. But real estate, for what I do, I wouldn't be here if I didn't have my education. And what do I mean by that? By reading books, by attending seminars, by going to which helped me out a lot, the workshop, being part of websites such as yours, and investing. You got to invest in your education, because if you're not going to invest in your education, you're going to waste your time. You're going to be sabotage yourself. There's no other way to put it, in my opinion. And then you get luck, as I mentioned before, to you. Luck is when, on my book, when education meets opportunity, because, and then you have to be persistent, because many people say, oh, I sent 100 letters and I got one phone call, or I didn't get any phone calls. You need to be persistent. Persistence is the name of the game. Education, and everything will come together, And of course, you need to network a lot with people, You need to know who the players are, the investors, people that are going to give you a helping hand, But education is the number one. It was for me with your course. It was for me with the 2 or 3 day workshop that I attended from New York to Macon. I said, what the hell is Macon? So you have to fly to Atlanta, and then you take a shuttle and said, okay, so everything's lined up. So yes, so I'll tell you, and I keep on repeating like a broken record. Without your education, you're going to have very, very little to no chance of success in this business. Unless your father is an investor and you've been taken by the hand and you learn how. Other than that, I didn't have mommy and daddy to help me out. I had everything against me, William. From the time I arrived over here in this country, back in 1988, I was 23 years old, and I had everything against me, So, but I guess, with some people that care, about other people, I'm over here today.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean.
And doing a great job, for sure. All righty. So you and I are in agreement on that. Continuing education, networking with the right people, just surrounding yourself with people that, know what they're doing. And, we'll share some of those tips with you like you're doing today. I mean, you're helping a lot of people here today, just talking about what you do and, some of the things that have made you a success down there in good old Gainesville, Georgia. So if you can do it there, you can probably do it anywhere. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, like I said, I had everything against me, brother. And, I'll tell you what, I'm sitting over here in my shorts on today's, what day today again? This Tuesday? No.
Yeah,
so
I do that all the time.
I don't have a boss. I don't have to go to a job. I'm not late, but I know that today nobody's out, but you get the idea.
Oh, absolutely. I have to look at a calendar all the time and remind myself what day of the week it is, and that sort of thing, because when you don't have a boss, you don't have to worry about it too much. So
no,
I get what you're saying. Well, Lewis, I'll tell you, you've answered a lot of questions for us today. I've just got one more before I'm going to let you get back to your day of taking it easy and fielding a few leads and calls. If you could give new investors wanting to get started right now any advice, what would it be?
Well, again, I have to say the education. You need to educate yourself. You need to get your brain connected to the material. if it is a subject to, or if it is whatever it is that you want to do, you need to get connected. To get connected, you need to invest. You need to invest in yourself, because if you don't invest in yourself, nobody will. I invested in myself, and like I said, I had, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I put the foot on the gas, my foot on the gas, and so I tried to connect to the right people that walk the walk, people that make things happen, honest, trustworthy people, and you should do the same if you wanna succeed in real estate. Don't fool yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, you're not gonna get anywhere. But then again, you need to do what you need to do, because the material, the studies, nothing's gonna do for you. You're gonna have to do it yourself. You need to connect to people. You need to make calls. You need to hit the pavement. You need to, all of the above. I don't have to preach that to you, because if you're listening to this now, you already probably know. So that's my advice, William, to whoever would like to start today.
Right. Just invest in your education and be willing to work hard, and
yes, sir.
The good fortune will follow. That's for sure. Luis, again, I want to thank you for being here with us today and sharing an hour of your time. I know you're busy taking it easy down there in Gainesville, and so I felt a little guilty asking you to come on with us. But like I said, I've known you a long time, and I know you're really doing a lot of deals down there, doing some rehabs, some flips, some sub-twos and that sort of thing, and have been doing it successfully for the last 14 years or so. So I know you had a lot of good information. So again, I just want to thank you for taking time to be on the show with us today.
It's been a pleasure, William. When you contacted me, a few days ago and asked me to be part of your show, I said, oh man, I must be doing something right, for William to contact me, and I'm like, okay, absolutely, man. I'll do it, because I have to say that I owe you my, the jump start. I would say that you were responsible for that, the jump start of my career, and I still to this day I use some of your material.
Well, great. So, that is great news. I'm glad to hear it. I'm honored to have been a small part of your success. But listen, I just provided some of the education, and you definitely got out there and did the work. So, but I do thank you for that. So thanks again, Luis, and we'll talk again soon.
It's been a pleasure, William. God bless.
You too.
Well, Sub-Tours, that is it for this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode along with a complete transcript at sub2podcast.com. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe. Please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, and it helps others discover the show. You can subscribe as well as leave a rating and review by visiting Apple Podcasts and just do a quick search for the Sub-2 Deals Show. It'd also be great if you would consider sharing our podcast with a fellow real estate investor who you think may benefit from it. And finally, if you haven't yet, you can join our absolutely free Facebook Subject To group at sub2forum.com. You can also get lots more resources to help you grow your real estate investing business at sub2deals.com. So until our next show, keep learning, keep talking to sellers, and you will buy some houses.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Sub-2 Deals Show with William Tingle. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review and subscribe. And for more great content and to stay up to date, visit sub2deals.com and on Facebook at Sub2 Deals. We'll catch you next time.